Have you ever felt that strange restlessness inside? That feeling that you're running every day, yet not truly moving anywhere. We wake up to alarms, rush into routines, scroll through noise, chase deadlines, and still there's this quiet whisper in the heart asking, am I really progressing? A progress is not just about doing more, it's about becoming more. But in our race to become someone, we often forget to become ourselves. I once met a young professional who said, "Sir, I feel like I'm busy every day, but I'm not going anywhere." I smiled and told him, "My dear friend, sometimes the busyness of life hides the barrenness of purpose." So today, let's take a deep breath and uncover the 5 enemies of progress, those silent forces that steal our potential, dim our focus, and make us live days that feel like forever wandering. Because when we understand what holds us back, we can finally start moving forward, not just in career but in consciousness, not just in speed but in soul. Let's begin. Days forever wandering, the trap of endless thinking. How many of us wake up in the morning with 1,000 thoughts racing through our minds? What to do, what could be, what if this doesn't work, what if that goes wrong? We plan, we analyze, we replay old memories, we fast forward future fears, and yet, somewhere between all that thinking, life quietly slips by. Have you noticed that we often spend more time thinking about life than actually living it? There's a certain comfort in wondering, in imagining, in staying in that space where everything feels possible, but nothing ever really happens. But comfort, if not challenged, becomes a cage. There's a story of a man who used to stand every evening on a bridge watching the sunset. He would dream of starting his own business, traveling the world, and writing a book. Every sunset he would tell himself, one day when I have more money, one day when I have more courage, one day when things settle down. But one day turned into 1 year, and 1 year turned into 10. The bridge remained the same, the sunset remained the same, but his dreams faded into distant echoes. He didn't fail because he lacked talent. He failed because he lived forever wondering. So many of us live in that same one day mindset. We keep postponing our growth, our peace, our happiness to some future moment that never comes. We think we're waiting for the right time, but sometimes the right time is simply the moment we decide. The world's most successful and spiritually grounded people are not those who have all the answers, but those who dare to begin, even when things aren't clear. The mind loves to keep you in confusion because confusion feels safe. It gives you the illusion that you're doing something, thinking, planning, imagining, while in reality, you're simply delaying your destiny. If you look around, life itself teaches this truth every day. A seed doesn't wait for the perfect weather to sprout. It breaks open in darkness, in uncertainty, trusting the process of growth. Likewise, progress doesn't begin with a perfect plan, it begins with a willing heart. We can't think our way into clarity. Clarity is born through action. The more you move, the more the path unfolds. The more you sit still wondering, the fog never lifts. Think of a student who wants to learn how to swim. She can read books on swimming, watch videos, talk to experts, but until she steps into the water, she'll never really know what it feels like. That's how life is. You can't learn courage by imagining it. You can only build it by practicing it. You can't experience peace by reading about it. You must quiet your thoughts and live it. Thinking is good when it leads to action, but destructive when it replaces it. So, what makes us live forever wondering? It's the fear of failure. The fear that our effort might not yield results. But here's something to remember: failure isn't the opposite of progress, it's a part of it. Every time you try and stumble, you're actually learning to balance your next step. Life doesn't expect perfection from you, it only expects participation. The real tragedy is not trying and failing, it's wondering and never trying. There's a difference between reflection and rumination. Reflection helps you grow, but rumination keeps you stuck. When you reflect, you look at the past to understand. When you ruminate, you look at the past to complain. And the more you complain, the heavier your journey becomes. People who keep wondering, why me, miss the chance to ask, what now? The shift from wondering to doing begins when you stop blaming and start becoming. Every person who has made a mark in this world once stood where you stand, uncertain, scared, full of questions. They just didn't let their questions paralyze them. They acted even when they were afraid. Courage doesn't mean you have no fear, it means you move despite it. Progress begins in that small, trembling step. That phone call you've been delaying, that dream you've been doubting, that healing you've been postponing. It all begins the day you stop wondering and start walking. The truth is, life is not waiting for you to figure everything out. It's waiting for you to begin. When you begin, life begins to respond. Doors open, opportunities appear, people come to support you, miracles unfold. But none of this happens while you're sitting on the sidelines of your thoughts, wondering how it will all turn out. If you look back, the happiest moments of your life weren't the ones you overplanned. They were the ones you simply lived. You didn't think about how to smile, you smiled. You didn't wonder if you should laugh, you laughed. You didn't calculate whether the sunset was worth watching, you just watched. That's what life wants from you. Not perfect planning, but pure participation. The mind will always whisper, "You're not ready yet," but your heart already knows you are. The heart knows that progress is not a destination, it's a direction. Every small act of courage, every honest effort, every single moment you choose to move instead of wonder, you're already progressing. So, the next time your mind traps you in endless what ifs, pause and remind yourself. The only wrong step is the one never taken. Life is too precious to be spent wondering what it could have been. It's meant to be lived, not imagined. And when you dare to live, even imperfectly, you'll realize that progress isn't something that happens to you. It's something that grows within you. When you take one bold step today, you've already won against the greatest enemy of progress. Days forever wondering, the noise, external chaos that drowns inner wisdom. Have you ever noticed how loud the world has become? Not just in sound, but in energy, in pace, in expectations. From the moment we wake up, there's a rush. Notifications, messages, opinions, headlines, advice, judgments, and endless chatter all competing for a piece of our attention. We scroll, we swipe, we refresh, and we call it staying connected. But ironically, we've never been more disconnected from ourselves, from silence, from what truly matters. The world outside has become so noisy that we can no longer hear the quiet whisper within that says, "This is who you are." Some people have grown accustomed to noise. Some people even fear silence because silence demands reflection, and reflection can be uncomfortable. When there's no music, no phone, no conversation, we start to hear our own thoughts, the doubts we've been avoiding, the dreams we've ignored, the truths we've buried under business. But growth never happens in noise, it begins in awareness. Just as a seed grows beneath the quiet soil, our wisdom blossoms in stillness. Think about this. In a crowded market, if someone calls your name softly, you probably won't hear it. But if that same person whispers in a silent room, you'll hear it instantly. That's how life works too. The voice of your soul is gentle, calm, patient. But if your mind is filled with the constant buzzes of the world, you'll never catch it. Every day, we allow other people's noise, their opinions, their comparisons, their judgments, to drown out our intuition. We start to doubt what we once knew. We start to question our own direction. Slowly, we lose the sound of our own inner compass. I once met a young man who said, "I feel lost. Everyone around me seems to know what they want, but I don't." I asked him, "How much time do you spend alone? Without your phone, without music, without distractions?" He smiled nervously and said, "Almost never." I told him, "Then you're not lost, you're just drowned in noise." You see, silence doesn't mean isolation, it means alignment. It's the art of tuning back into the frequency of your own soul. In our daily lives, we constantly consume news, opinions, advice, entertainment, but we rarely pause to digest. Imagine eating all day without giving your body time to process the food. You'd feel heavy and sick. That's what happens to the mind when it's constantly flooded with noise. It becomes overwhelmed, anxious, and confused. And in that confusion, we mistake motion for progress and noise for meaning. We start to think that being busy means being purposeful. But in truth, business often hides emptiness. The greatest minds and spiritual teachers throughout history valued silence not as an escape, but as a practice. They understood that silence isn't the absence of something. It's the presence of everything that truly matters. When you sit quietly without trying to fix, impress, or achieve, you begin to notice things. You start to see where your energy is leaking. You realize what drains you and what nourishes you. You begin to hear that inner voice that's been patiently waiting beneath the static of the world. In our modern life, noise doesn't only come through sound, it comes through comparison. Social media has become a stage where everyone performs perfection. The more we scroll, the louder the noise gets. We start to measure our peace against someone else's highlight reel. We forget that what we see is only the surface, the noise, not the truth. Behind every smiling picture, there's a story we don't see. When we stop chasing the noise of validation, we start experiencing the calm of authenticity. Try to remember a time when you sat by the ocean, watched the sunrise, or walked in a quiet park. For that moment, the world felt slower, simpler, more real. You weren't thinking about what's next or who's watching. You were simply there, alive, aware, and at peace. That's the power of quiet moments. They remind us that our worth isn't in the world's applause, it's in our connection to our own soul. The noise of the world tells you to rush. It says, do more, have more, be more. But your inner voice gently whispers, just be. The world glorifies speed, but wisdom is born in stillness. The world celebrates noise, but peace is found in silence. The world pushes you to look outside for answers, but the real answers have always been within. When you sit in silence, even for a few minutes each day, something magical happens. The mind that once seemed uncontrollable begins to soften. Thoughts slow down. Clarity begins to rise like sunlight breaking through clouds. Suddenly, decisions that once felt confusing become clear. The heaviness of confusion lifts, and you begin to feel guided, centered, aligned. A calm mind is not a gift, it's a discipline. It's built by consciously choosing what you allow into your inner space. You can't always control the noise of the world, but you can control whether you absorb it. Each time you choose silence over chaos, reflection over reaction, peace over performance, you reclaim a piece of yourself that the world had taken away. So, take a moment every day to withdraw from the crowd and sit with yourself. No phone, no agenda, just you and your breath. You'll realize that silence is not empty, it's full of answers. It's full of healing. It's full of truth. The more you make peace with silence, the less you'll need validation from noise. Progress doesn't come from doing more, it comes from hearing better. Because the path forward isn't revealed through the world's loudness, it's whispered through the heart's quiet confidence. The moment you dare to disconnect from the world's noise, you begin to reconnect with the wisdom that's been waiting for you all along. When you learn to listen deeply, life begins to speak clearly. And that is how true progress begins, not in the rush of the world, but in the calm of your own soul. Silence, the forgotten teacher. In a world that celebrates noise, silence has become an endangered experience. Everywhere we go, there's sound, traffic, conversations, music, screens playing in the background. Even when there is no sound, our minds are still making noise, replaying memories, worrying about the future, or comparing ourselves to others. We are surrounded by volume and consumed by mental clutter. Yet the truth is, some of the most powerful lessons in life are not spoken. They are revealed in silence. Silence doesn't mean the absence of sound. It means the presence of awareness. It is that sacred space where your soul finally has room to breathe. We often misunderstand silence as loneliness, but it's not. Loneliness is the absence of people, while silence is the presence of yourself. When you sit in silence, you start to meet the version of you that exists beyond roles, beyond titles, beyond the noise of identity. You start to see who you really are, not what the world has told you to be. This is why silence can feel uncomfortable at first, because it brings you face to face with your truth. And truth can be intimidating when you've been running away from it. But if you can stay with it long enough, silence becomes your greatest guide. There's an ancient story about a monk who traveled to a city famous for its wise teachers. He asked a master, "What must I do to find peace?" The master simply handed him a small bowl and said, "Go sit by the river and fill this bowl with silence." The monk was confused. How can you fill a bowl with silence? He sat by the river for hours, listening to the wind, the water, the birds, the rhythm of life, and slowly something shifted within him. He realized that silence was not something he had to find outside, it was something he had to awaken inside. When he returned, the master smiled and said, "No, you understand. Peace isn't found in the absence of sound, but in the presence of stillness." In our daily lives, we all need that river moment. The pause between our responsibilities, the stillness between two breaths. Life is not asking us to abandon the world and live in caves. It's simply asking us to create moments of quiet within the chaos. Just as a musician needs pauses between notes to create melody, we need silence between actions to create meaning. Without pauses, life becomes noise. But with silence, it becomes music. Think about your day. How many moments do you truly spend in silence? Most of us wake up to alarms, rush into conversations, turn on music, answer messages, watch screens, and fall asleep with noise. We rarely allow our minds to rest. No wonder we feel drained, even after doing everything. Right? Our energy doesn't only deplete through effort, it leaks through unfiltered noise. Silence recharges us in ways sleep never can. It cleanses the mental fog, resets the emotional turbulence, and reconnects us with the divine rhythm of life. In silence, you start to hear the unspoken, the wisdom of your own intuition. Sometimes, when you're confused about a decision, the best thing to do is to stop asking everyone for advice and just sit quietly. Your heart already knows the answer, but it can't speak if your mind keeps interrupting. Silence doesn't shout, it whispers. And to hear whispers, you must be still. When you're silent, clarity becomes louder. You begin to sense what feels right rather than what looks right. You start to move from guidance, not pressure. I remember once sitting with a man who had achieved everything people dream of: money, status, recognition. Yet he told me, "I feel empty." I asked, "When was the last time you sat quietly with yourself?" He said, "I don't think I ever have. Silence makes me restless." I smiled and said, "That restlessness is not silence's fault. It's your soul asking for attention." The more we run away from silence, the more we run away from ourselves. The day we stop being afraid of our own thoughts is the day we begin to heal. Silence also teaches humility. In silence, you realize how small you are in the vastness of existence. You begin to see that the world doesn't revolve around your opinions or anxieties. Nature continues to flow, the sun rises, rivers move, seasons change, all without noise. Life doesn't announce its miracles, it simply lives them. When we align with that silent rhythm, we stop fighting life and start flowing with it. That's where true serenity begins. Silence is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It is the oxygen for the soul. When you learn to sit quietly, even for 5 minutes a day, you start to notice small but profound shifts. Your reactions soften. Your words carry more meaning. Your relationships deepen. You begin to listen not just to respond, but to understand. Silence makes you sensitive, compassionate, and wise. In a world obsessed with being heard, silence teaches you the value of listening. It teaches you that not every thought deserves your attention. Not every noise deserves your response, and not every emotion needs immediate expression. Silence teaches patience, the art of waiting without anxiety, of trusting without control. When you can be calm in silence, you can be peaceful anywhere. Imagine a lake. When it's disturbed, you can't see your reflection clearly. But when it's still, everything becomes visible. The same is true for the mind. When it's filled with noise, you can't see your truth. But when it's still, clarity emerges naturally. So, take moments in your day to pause and listen. Not to the world, but to yourself. Sit by the window, close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let silence speak. You'll realize that silence was never empty. It was full of peace, full of wisdom, full of God. And once you make friends with silence, the world's noise will never disturb your inner harmony again. Because silence is not just a teacher, it is the voice of the divine, gently reminding you that the greatest strength lies not in saying more, but in hearing deeply. Practice in life, the power of consistency. We often look at people who have achieved greatness and wonder what their secret is. We think they must have been blessed with extraordinary talent, or maybe they got lucky. But if you look closer, you'll find that greatness is rarely a product of sudden brilliance. It is born from quiet, repeated effort, from the discipline of showing up every day, even when no one is watching, even when it feels hard, even when progress seems invisible. Practice is not glamorous, it's the slow shaping of the soul. It is through the ordinary that the extraordinary is built. Think of a musician learning to play the violin. The first few days are painful, the sound is rough, the hands ache, the progress feels painfully slow. But with daily practice, something magical begins to happen. The fingers become lighter, the sound smoother, and the heart begins to express itself through the strings. That is life's way of teaching us. Mastery comes not from the desire to be perfect, but from the willingness to persist. Every effort, no matter how small, is a prayer in motion. We live in a world that glorifies results but overlooks the process. Everyone wants the transformation, but few want the discipline. We want peace without patience, success without struggle, and wisdom without time. But life doesn't work that way. Flowers don't bloom overnight. Rivers don't carve valleys in a day. Everything beautiful in nature grows through slow, patient practice. Why should our growth be any different? There was once a sculptor who spent years carving a statue. People would walk by his workshop and see him chiseling away at the same block of stone day after day. One man asked, "Why are you wasting your time on this one piece?" The sculptor smiled and said, "Because each strike of my hammer is shaping what the world will one day admire." That's what practice does. It quietly shapes your character, chisels your ego, and reveals the beauty hidden within you. In our daily lives, practice doesn't have to mean something grand. It can be as simple as practicing kindness, gratitude, patience, or mindfulness. Every time you choose to be calm, when it's easier to react, you're practicing strength. Every time you forgive, instead of holding a grudge, you're practicing freedom. Every time you get up after failing, you're practicing resilience. Practice is not about repetition alone, it's about intention. What you do daily with love becomes sacred. Consistency is a form of devotion. It is you telling life, "I may not be perfect, but I'm present." And life always responds to presence. The more consistent you are, the more trust life places in you. You begin to attract opportunities, not because you're lucky, but because you've become ready. Practice transforms readiness into reality. Think of a garden. If you water it once and walk away, nothing will grow. But if you water it a little every day, even when you can't see the seeds sprouting, one morning you'll find green shoots breaking through the soil. The same is true for your dreams, your relationships, your spiritual growth. What you nurture daily will eventually flourish. What you neglect will fade. The universe rewards persistence more than perfection. Many people give up too early because they can't see immediate results. They plant a seed and then dig it up to check if it's growing. But life's magic happens underground, in the unseen spaces of patience. Every time you stay committed when the results are invisible, you are building strength that no external success can give you. That's why practice is not just about skill, it's about shaping character. It teaches humility, endurance, and faith. When we practice something sincerely, we also learn to embrace imperfection. You may stumble, you may make mistakes, but every mistake is a step toward mastery. A painter doesn't stop when a brushstroke goes wrong. He adjusts, blends, and continues. Life asks us to do the same. Every day will not go perfectly, but every day can move you forward. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. Even spiritually, practice plays a vital role. Peace of mind doesn't come from reading about calmness. It comes from practicing stillness every day. Compassion doesn't bloom from hearing about kindness. It grows when you actually live it. The divine doesn't seek grand gestures. It responds to consistent devotion. The smallest daily practice, when done sincerely, becomes a bridge between you and grace. Remember, even the rising sun practices. It doesn't rush the dawn. It rises slowly, consistently, every morning, no matter how dark the night was. The sun never misses a day. It simply fulfills its purpose. We too must rise daily with that same quiet commitment. There will be days when you feel motivated and days when you don't. But motivation is temporary, discipline is eternal. The ones who progress are not those who feel inspired every day, but those who act even when they don't. A wise person once said, "Don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong." That's what life is about. Practicing until peace becomes natural, until kindness becomes effortless, until gratitude becomes your default. When practice becomes part of who you are, progress stops being something you chase. It becomes something you embody. So, wherever you are in your journey, keep showing up. Even if no one sees your effort, even if no one applauds, keep going. Because every small, consistent step you take is a silent declaration to the universe. I'm still here, still trying, still growing. And one day, without even realizing it, you look back and see how far you've come. Not because you made one giant leap, but because you practiced small steps with great faith. That's the quiet, unstoppable power of practice in life. It doesn't just change what you do, it transforms who you become. Day progress, growth in little steps. We often measure progress by milestones: a promotion, a new home, a degree, or a big achievement. But life doesn't always move in leaps, it unfolds in quiet, almost invisible steps. The mistake many people make is believing that if change isn't dramatic, it isn't meaningful. But the truth is, real growth is subtle, gradual, and often unseen, like the way the sun rises. You never notice the exact moment darkness becomes light, but it happens slowly, faithfully, every single day. That's what real progress looks like. Not loud, not rushed, but steady and sincere. Think of a child learning to walk. They fall hundreds of times, wobble with uncertainty, and sometimes cry in frustration. But each fall is a lesson, each attempt a step closer to balance. The parents don't scold the child for falling, they cheer every effort, knowing that falling is part of walking. Life is like that. We expect ourselves to run immediately, forgetting that progress often begins in small, trembling steps. Growth is not about perfection, it's about persistence. In our fast, moving world, everyone wants results overnight. We want to lose weight in a week, learn a skill in a day, heal from pain instantly, and achieve success without struggle. But that impatience robs us of the beauty of becoming. Every flower takes time to bloom. Every mountain climber must take countless small steps to reach the top. Those little steps, though ordinary, are the very foundation of greatness. What looks like no progress to the impatient eye is actually transformation happening quietly beneath the surface. There's a story of a bamboo tree that teaches us this. When a bamboo seed is planted, it doesn't show any visible growth for years. You water it, nurture it, care for it, but for the first 4 years, nothing appears above the ground. It seems as if nothing is happening. But in the 5th year, it suddenly shoots up almost 80 feet in just a few weeks. What was it doing during those silent years? It was building roots deep into the earth, preparing to sustain its height. That's how your progress works too. Sometimes life takes you through seasons where you feel unseen, unappreciated, or stagnant. But don't mistake stillness for absence. You're growing roots, patience, strength, humility, and resilience. Each day you choose to move forward, even slightly, you are building something eternal. When you smile despite stress, you're progressing. When you forgive someone who hurt you, you're progressing. When you choose peace over argument, gratitude over complaint, faith over fear, you're progressing. It may not make noise, but it makes a difference. Many people give up too soon because they can't see results. They forget that every great transformation begins with invisible effort. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean it isn't happening. You don't see the sun move across the sky, yet it does. You don't see your hair grow daily, yet it does. Likewise, your growth is happening one quiet day at a time. Life is not asking for giant leaps, it's asking for gentle consistency. Sometimes, it's the smallest decisions that change your life. Waking up a little earlier to meditate, reading one page of an inspiring book, being kind when it's easier to be cold, choosing patience when anger feels natural. These are not small actions. They are silent revolutions. You may not notice their power in a day or a week, but over time, they reshape your destiny. Great lives are not built in moments of applause, they're built in moments of discipline. If you observe nature, you'll see that everything grows in seasons. Trees don't bear fruit all year. They rest, shed, and renew. Likewise, our lives have seasons of fast growth and seasons of quiet preparation. Both are necessary. When things seem slow, don't lose faith. The delay is often divine protection. Life knows when you're ready. Every season of waiting builds the strength to handle what's coming. In spiritual growth, too, daily practice matters more than grand gestures. Spending a few quiet minutes each morning in gratitude, reflection, or prayer may not seem much, but it changes your energy. It reminds you that life is not something to rush through, but something to live through. Those few peaceful moments align your thoughts, calm your emotions, and prepare you to face the day with balance. We admire the mountain peaks, but we forget the countless steps it takes to reach them. We praise the finished masterpiece, but overlook the brushstrokes that created it. In the same way, every step you take, every small act of courage, every moment of effort, every little choice to keep going, is shaping a masterpiece out of your life. If you ever feel discouraged because you think you're not where you want to be, pause and look back. You'll see how far you've come, how many storms you've survived, how many times you thought you couldn't go on, but did. That's progress. The person you were a year ago would be proud of how much stronger, wiser, and more grounded you've become. You may not be at your destination yet, but you are no longer where you started, and that's something to celebrate. The beauty of progress is that it's deeply personal. You don't have to move at anyone else's pace. Some people run, others walk. What matters is that you keep moving. Life is not a race, it's a journey meant to be savored. The most fulfilled people are not those who rush to the finish line, but those who grow gracefully along the way. So, the next time you feel stuck or slow, remember, even the smallest step forward counts. Even showing up on difficult days counts. Even trying again after failing counts. Progress is not about speed, it's about sincerity. The person who moves one step forward every day will go farther than the one who runs fast and quits early. Every sunrise brings you another chance to begin again. A fresh opportunity to grow a little wiser, a little kinder, a little stronger. That's what true progress is, not becoming someone else, but becoming a better version of who you already are. So take your steps, however small, with faith. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that those little steps were actually the big ones. In the silence between your thoughts lies the voice of your real self. The one that doesn't shout but gently reminds you that you are capable, you are growing, and you are becoming. Every person carries within them a quiet power, a strength that reveals itself not in loud victories, but in the way they rise each day after falling. Life is not about never being shaken, it's about finding your center even when the world feels uncertain. It's about knowing that calm is not the absence of chaos, but the ability to remain peaceful within it. Every morning you wake up, you're given a choice to let life happen to you or to flow with life consciously. The people who radiate peace are not those who have fewer problems, they are those who have chosen to trust the process of life even when they can't understand it. They have learned that every delay hides divine timing, and every disappointment carries a hidden lesson. Think about how the river doesn't fight the rocks in its path. It simply flows around them, knowing that eventually it will find its way to the ocean. In the same way, when you stop resisting what life brings, you start living with more grace. Often we are taught that strength means control, controlling situations, people, and outcomes. But real strength is surrender, not giving up, but giving in to what is, while keeping faith in what will be. When a seed is buried under the soil, it doesn't complain about the darkness. It trusts that the darkness is the very place where transformation begins. The same is true for us. The seasons of confusion, loss, or loneliness are not punishments, they are preparation. You may not see the growth yet, but your soul is stretching, maturing, and becoming something deeper than before. There's a quiet dignity in people who walk through tough times with patience. They don't rush to prove anything. They understand that peace cannot be found